Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more.
Hello, friends. Welcome into Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast featuring the great Phil Perry. We are two practices into the 2023 Patriots training camp. Phil and I have told you on many platforms that this is a ramp-up period for the first three practices. Phil, I got an observation to make about camp in general over the first 2 days, and that is, unlike 2020, 2021, and 2022, this is a drama-free, stress-free camp. There's no competition between Mac Jones and Cam Newton. There's no competition between Cam Newton and Jarrett Stidham and a successor to Tom Brady. There's no defensive coordinator trying to coordinate an offense. It's just kind of football so far. And I think that's going to be to the good.
I agree with you. And I would say specifically when it comes to the offense in the quarterback position, right? I think it's hard to say completely drama-free when one of your starting cornerbacks is facing trial mid-August for gun charges. But by and large, especially on that side of the ball, which we know is what, like it or not, wins and loses football games in 2023, to have that stress level ratcheted down in some ways. And it's just such an interesting year there, right? Because all of those things you mentioned, not an issue. And yet, Mac Jones's job's on the line this year, right? That's what makes it, I think, a good situation for him. He doesn't have to worry about this other stuff. He can just concentrate on his play and making sure he's the face of the franchise for the next several years.
The stress is high. The urgency is high. But the uncertainty of, if I screw this up, I'm going to get benched, or boy, Bailey Zappi's about to take my job. Any of that crap is out the window. Or holy crap, Trent Brown showed up looking like a Zeppelin. Trent Brown. We're going to get to that. The most pleasant of surprises so far. So I think that's really to the good for this camp, because as we tend to do on NBC Sports Boston, and as I've been accused of over the last several years, ferreting out the negative. I think when I look for the negative, it's like, wow, Lawrence Guy's still not happy with his contractual situation. He's here anyway. There's really nothing to kick rocks about if you're a Patriots fan. I mean, we're looking and trying to exhume somewhat of a Matthew Judon hold in, but even if it is, it's the most gentle and polite hold in we've ever seen. So it's kind of the football, Phil. Come on back.
It is. It's the first normal camp that Mac Jones has had. And so given that this is a massive season for his career and for the arc of this franchise moving forward the next few years, the fact that there is some normalcy to the coaching that he's getting, to the fact that he is apparently established as the guy. I'm sure there are Bailey Zappi people out there, Tom, that are listening to this podcast. Just so you all know, through 2 days, it's been very clear who the starting quarterback is based on who's getting the reps when and with whom. Who's in that huddle with Mac Jones? Who's in that huddle with Bailey Zappi? It's very clear who the number one guy is. So normalcy is good. Mac Jones could use a little bit more of that. He could use a little more talent too around him, but normal is the low bar that they are currently clearing, which is good news for him.
And we're going to get to Mac Jones' first 2 days performance, and more importantly, the offense's performance over the first 2 days. We're also going to talk about some of the injuries incurred on day 2. We'll talk about Dalvin Cook and whether or not the Patriots should probe that with Ramondre Stevenson limited and Ty Montgomery leaving practice. We'll also talk about Trent Brown, Mac's numbers, some of the scheme things that Phil has observed. Mac trust and leadership, Lawrence Guy, we mentioned his holdout. We talked to him. And JuJu Smith-Schuster shining on day 2. Well, not shining, but very much utilized. Give you some straight updates, too, on Gonzalez, Uche Duggar, Riley Reif, and the kicking competition. Meanwhile, Matt Groh spoke to us, and if you're going to stick around for a while, you're going to hear us talk about spending and how it doesn't really add up that you didn't spend on DeAndre Hopkins with all that money, and then you find out he signed for $11 million. Were the Patriots afraid to spend to piss off their locker room? And who would they have been afraid of pissing off? It's DeAndre Hopkins for crochet. Will they make the same mistake if Dalvin Cook is demanding money? But back to Mac. What are you seeing so far from Mac Jones on these days with just shorts, helmets, and shells and an offense that's operating in the red zone with not a lot of room to throw.
Yeah, good and bad there. And I think part of our jobs here is to describe to the people, because these obviously aren't televised. We can't take video after a certain point in practice. And unless you're here to witness the proceedings firsthand, you don't know what happened out there. So we're here to tell you. And sometimes we'll tell you some things that don't necessarily have big picture implications. Okay. So I say all that as a bit of a qualifier before I tell you it's been a little clunky offensively. I think there are just some little details that are missing. Mac Jones, for instance, today, they start with 7-on-7's first competitive period of practice. He goes 0 for 4. Now, they are in the red zone. Space is tight. Patriots defense is pretty good. Patriots offense is working in some new guys, new offensive coordinator. So you get it. It's not going to be perfect. But I thought there was an accuracy miss on one throw to Ty Montgomery. I thought there was a miscommunication with Hunter Henry that led to another incompletion. And Mac Jones looked a little disappointed, kind of hung his head after the last rep and sort of shuffled off, and Bailey Zappi got to take his reps.
Can I ask you, were those the pylon throws?
Back-to-back pylon throws, yes, to Montgomery and Hunter Henry.
I thought all 4 of them were pylon throws. Was that the Devontae Parker pylon throw as well?
Some went to the opposite side of the field.
Okay, because what I thought, and this is the qualifier I'm going to add, is there's a lot of balls that when they're thrown, they're on the ground at the end instead of in somebody's hands.
Mm-hmm.
It feels to me like on this red zone, on that one in particular, they're working a particular throw, and the defense after a minute says, oh, I see what they're doing here. They're trying to throw to the pylon. So inevitably, you're not going to lag behind. You're going to try and do your job as a defender and break that up. So that's the qualifier I'll add. Does that mean it's not going to happen next week? We never run pass threat and they're in pads and you can throw anywhere? Nope. That doesn't necessarily mean that, but it's that qualifier Phil was talking about. We can just tell you what the results were. And then we can either tell you it was an unforced error or there might be mitigating circumstances. So to me, there's going to be people when they see the data coming out of here that say, "Oh, Max sucks. I thought Billy O was going to be a savior. Ha! Maybe Patricia shouldn't have gone anywhere." And the truth is, don't go there yet.
I'm not going to add a qualifier to your qualifier. If I was, I would say on both occasions, I would say on both occasions, both guys were open, even if the defense knew it was coming. And Mac Jones's reaction.
Okay.
They're NFL open in the red zone. If you have a step on a guy, you're open. That's just how I view it. And Mac's reaction where he's hanging his head after the fact, it wasn't didn't have a chance there anyway. That sucks.
See,
so
that's the thing is we're sitting there on the hill. I don't know if I'm even talking about the same damn plays as Philly. So be that as it may, hasn't looked great. I'm not ready to get even the least bit nervous.
Last thing I wanted to mention, in terms of the clunkiness, and these are both, and I'm somebody who thinks Mac Jones is pretty good. And I think it's too bad he's not surrounded by a little bit more, because I think we'd be able to see a lot more from him this year. We'll see how it goes with Bill O'Brien. But I will say, 2 sort of head scratching decisions on red zone throws where you're rolling to your right and throwing across your body into traffic. One got batted away by Christian Gonzalez. You might say to yourself, if you're a quarterback at that point, I kind of got away with one there. Probably shouldn't do that again. That's sort of a no-no if you're a high school quarterback. Throw back across your body in the red zone. At least that was my understanding. Did it again later in the practice on 3rd down in the red zone, threw it right to Kyle Duggar. And he drops and does 10 push-ups and gives Kyle Duggar a little low 5 after. So bad decision on the one hand. On the other hand, Tom, I would say I kind of like that reaction from Mac Jones. He didn't blow up. He didn't lose his cool. It didn't ruin his day. I think it speaks to what you were saying off the top of the podcast here, where, there's some normalcy here. There's some, I don't know if confidence is the right word, but he understands he's the guy right now. And so it's not like every bad play means, Cam's going to be the starter after practice again today. Or, we just don't have a chance because I'm not getting the right kind of coaching here today. It's probably a bad decision. Shouldn't do that again. Shrug your shoulders and you move on. I thought that was instructive. Not only the decision, but how he reacted to the decision, more importantly.
And I think that leads nicely into some of the comments that Mac made yesterday that we highlighted from from Wednesday when Mac Jones spoke to the media. Let's roll those now. Mac being asked about his relationship with Bill Belichick and then explaining just how much he feels he's learned from last year.
How would you characterize your relationship with Coach Belichick? I know last year there was maybe some frustration, disagreement on both sides on the best way to get things done.
No, I think we're good. I think the biggest thing that we've all talked about is just having a fresh start. I think there's a lot of learning experiences from last year that we've talked about, and this year it's all about just working together, right? You got to come up with a plan and then obviously talk about it and then execute it. So I'm excited for that part of it. Really just, for me, just trying to be really consistent, try not to, ride the wave and just stay my course. And hopefully everybody on our offense feels that too. I think Coach O'Brien does a great job laying out what we do well so far, and we're going to learn every day what we do well, and then from there you just keep moving forward and execute the plan. So definitely excited for that.
We talked about this. Let's rehash it real quick before we get to some running back conversation. Mac, it's totally like the kid who got sent to the principal's office, letter sent home, and he said, I'm not going to go through that again. I'm going to be a good boy this year. That's the question.
What makes you say that? Is it the commentary that we got from him yesterday after practice, or is it the fact that he's trying to win every sprint and he's first in every line for every?
I was a kind of a dipshit in elementary school and junior high and high school. And I would often rebound after being hit on the nose with a newspaper in one fashion or another with, I'm really going to buckle down. And I'd be Mac Jones. And I think Mac Jones is doing that right now. To his credit, that's great. If he learns from it and applies it and doesn't go like Tommy Curran used to, up and down and up and down. I think that's good. He's dedicating himself and owning the fact that, he was kind of that he could have been better.
Yeah, he ran into a rut last year. And I think that comment that we heard from him this week about how he doesn't want to ride the wave is a good one. And I think something that he's really going to try to live by. Again, the reaction to the mistakes on the field. This is a guy who's nicknamed McEnroe because we know he runs a little bit hot. Is he going to be able to keep that up if they have a string of rough days against a good defense in adverse conditions and it's hot? Is he going to be able to keep that up and maintain that even keel? That'll be fascinating to watch.
And speaking of tough days, when you lose a guy in Ty Montgomery, which was not wholly unpredictable. He does get hurt an awful lot, as we saw last year and had throughout his career. But Ty Montgomery was a very consistent player for the Patriots in the first day. On the second day, a throw from third-string quarterback Trace McSorley down on the goal line was well behind Ty Montgomery. He tried to twist and catch it. He lost his balance a little bit. He banged knees, it looked like, with Terez Hall, maybe more than that. Came up gimpy. Took a few more reps. Brian Hines from Pat's Pulpit was the one who really clued me into this development because I saw the gimpiness, but I didn't see more. And then Ty Montgomery left the field. So he's valuable. Plus, Ramondre Stevenson was limited participation on Thursday, leads us to a report that the Patriots are now setting up a conversation in person with Dalvin Cook, former Minnesota Vikings running back. He is visiting the New York Jets. And here's Matt Groh earlier this week speaking about Dalvin Cook, Matt Groh's Patriots Director of Player Personnel.
Consider yourself still in the running for Dalvin Cook?
Again, we talked to DeAndre Hopkins. That's well known. We explore as many options as we can. Dalvin's another player. This is a really, really unique situation with both these players. You don't typically have players of this caliber available at this time. The contracts that are signed for players right now are nowhere near in the neighborhood of the contracts that these players are generally expecting to sign. Usually these are all minimum guys with splits. So this is a unique situation, and any unique situation, I think everybody evaluates and looks at, with Dalvin. And, we saw firsthand last year going up to Minnesota on Thanksgiving, which was great to spend Thanksgiving in Minnesota. Saw Dalvin firsthand and what he can do.
Phil, if Matt Groh believes a bargain is to be had with Dalvin Cook and understood there was a bargain to be had with DeAndre Hopkins, which we will get into a little bit later, well, what the hell? You get the money sitting there. It's burning a hole in your pocket. Vomit that stuff at the guy.
But Tom, don't you know they have to keep in mind how the locker room is going to react to that kind of deal? And if it throws off the hierarchy in terms of how guys are paid, you can't have it. And if you're sensing any sarcasm in my voice, that you're on your game, because I just find it so hard to believe that you would actively choose to not improve your team because you're concerned about how players in the locker room are going to view how they're paid, and they're going to gauge it against another guy's pay. That's going to happen regardless. And it's happened here for many, many years. And there have been many cases of very important players not being paid what the market suggests they're worth, and those guys being unhappy with their deals.
Bill alludes to that conversation because this is what Matt Groh had to say later in the conversation, apart from Dalvin Cook, in which, talking about renegotiations and actually pursuing players, the locker room dynamic needed to be weighed as to who would piss off. It was eye-opening to me when I heard it later, because, he's talking for about 15 minutes, and you listen to it back, and you rarely, if ever, hear that dynamic broached by a GM in terms of, hey, we can't pay this guy that much because it's going to piss off that guy. Here's Matt Groh.
Regarding the cap space, you also rank among the kind of cheapest teams in the league in terms of cash spent this year, upcoming years, I think even last year. Why is that?
I haven't been spending money for too long here, so I really only know what's been going on the last couple years. We've been aggressive in trying to get things done, and we always try and look at every player's contract and see how it fits together with the team. It's not just each individual contract. You got to manage the locker room and be cognizant of what's going on with each player and how that fits at their position, side of the ball, and then the locker room as a whole.
Phil, what do you think he's talking about? Is he talking about vis-a-vis contract renegotiations with, or bringing in Dalvin Cook and paying him more than Ramondre Stevenson? Is he talking about Devontae Parker presumably being somewhat miffed about Hopkins because he sounded that way, Parker did, when he was asked at minicamp, and then he gets a bump to kind of seemingly satisfy him because it's not a huge negotiation. They didn't extend him. They just gave him more money, right? Or did they extend him?
They extended him, and they actually
extended him, gave him a little more money, but it wasn't overboard.
Right.
Or was it related to JuJu Smith-Schuster, who just washed ashore here, and you're trying to tell JuJu, yeah, we can't pay DeAndre Hopkins more than JuJu? I don't understand why you have to tiptoe through the tulips of the locker room when you're going to hose Lawrence Guy, or you're going to hose Tom Brady, you're going to hose Julian Edelman, or you're going to hose friggin' Dante Hightower. What?
David Andrews. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And now we don't want to offend the receivers that currently occupy your receiver room by bringing in DeAndre Hopkins and making him the highest paid guy when he would be the best player in that room.
And they all know it.
Exactly. Would not be a secret to anyone. So what's best for the team, I think, is a fair question here. Is it the impact on those players' emotions, those other players' emotions, or the overall impact to your quote unquote culture, which we could debate all day long what that even is right now?
Yep.
Or is it just getting a good player in the room who can make your offense better and help you win some games so that the culture that you're hoping to establish might actually take hold? That to me is the fascinating question. And the only reason
I just had a thought.
Sorry, it comes up to me is just because Mike Lombardi's the one who broached it weeks ago.
Yeah.
He was saying, I don't see the Patriots signing Hopkins. You just signed JuJu Smith-Schuster. You can't pay him more than JuJu. And I heard that initially. And I like Mike. He's been on both of our podcasts, and really smart guy. He understands how Bill Belichick thinks. And I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying that thought process, it just had me gobsmacked.
If it exists with Mike weeks ago and it exists with Matt Groh yesterday, you're right. It's present. It was a factor. Okay. On the face of it, it's absolutely nonsensical. Is the question then, because the Patriots are not illogical, Bill's smarter than both of us, that he's concerned that, look, bring DeAndre Hopkins in, pay him $13 million, and he doesn't practice all week, and then he gets hurt, and he's not doing dick out there. Yet we got Bourne out there making $6 million. We got Parker making $5 million. We got JuJu taking a beating out there. It's just going to make chaos among these guys who are really not longtime people within our organization anyway, and don't have this tradition of all for one for all mentality. Maybe that's the logic behind it. We could do it if it was going to be some guy who was going to be blood and guts every single day. If it was going to be Devontae Adams, if it was going to be Anquan Bolden, but it's DeAndre Hopkins. He might not even practice most weeks.
And that's why, and I'm not trying to make light of the situation or be funny in any way here, but I think it's part of the reason why they just haven't had many good receivers here over the years. Because good receivers, generally speaking, have something about them that you just have to manage, whether it's practice habits, attitude in the locker room, complaining about it's one of those positions people in the league will tell you oftentimes the best ones, there's a little bit of management involved. I think they're dealing with it in Buffalo and Stephon Diggs right now. It's very rare are the true number ones like Calvin Johnson or Larry Fitzgerald just also one of your hardest workers and your most upstanding guys. I think that's pretty rare.
Yeah. Or even if they are one of your hardest workers, they need balloons and sheet cakes and, banners aloft to say that you're the hardest worker. And if you don't get the ball after all that work, you may bitch out anybody and everybody or headbutt a kicking net like Odell.
And so I understand I'm painting with a broad brush when I say that, but that's what I've been told over the years, whether it's recently talking to
we've observed
NFL people about Hopkins in particular. Well, are they going to want that guy? No, it's just that they tend to not be in on those players. And when they were the first, and I don't know, is this the last time they were really in on a big name receiver was when they got Randy Moss? I'm sure I'm missing Ocho Cinco, I guess, came after
Ocho, Antonio Brown, all
Brown's
these guys, distressed assets.
Yep.
Mohamed Sanu, you could throw in, as a guy who, had been productive.
But you said
Brandon
they're
Cooks,
distressed assets, and they're not
Brandon
even.
Cooks, distressed asset.
Mm-hmm.
So you bring him in as a distressed asset, and DeAndre Hopkins was a distressed asset too, but he was, he's not 28 and hasn't made money. Anyway, it's ludicrous to think that you don't sign DeAndre Hopkins because of the money. And I could get it. I actually would understand if the Patriots said, we're not spending $6 million on Dalvin Cook and pissing off Ramondre. I would get that logic. I wouldn't get the JuJu Hopkins logic because JuJu's making plenty already. Hadn't done anything here. You can piss him off all you want, or Devontae Parker. But Ramondre Stevenson has blood, sweat, and tears for you for 2 years. If you bring somebody in who does a fraction of his work for more, I'd be miffed. Or just give Ramondre Stevenson a bump.
Which I'm not really sure you can do because he's not even through his third year yet.
Okay.
But
details.
And maybe that's why they would say, well, this situation's different from managing egos, managing emotions in the receiver room, where those guys outside of Tyquan Thornton are veteran players. Stevenson, we could pay Cook more than Stevenson. Stevenson's still on a rookie contract. We don't even have the opportunity to adjust his deal, even if we wanted to. We can go to him and say, hey, Ramondre, don't worry, you'll get yours. But we need this guy here to help make you better, especially late in the season. So I would hope that same logic that applied apparently with DeAndre Hopkins doesn't apply in this situation with Dalvin Cook. They should get him here. They should pay him, Tom, in part because the entire AFC East is after this guy. And you, of all of those teams, are the ones who need the most help talent-wise, and this guy is still talented.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Listen, I want to encourage you to go and take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets. It's up to $200, and that's a lot because just betting $20 means you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 that you can spend betting everything from the money line to the over-under to who you think is going to hit the first home run. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/NSBO to get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/NSBO. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Hope is here. GamblingHelplineMA.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support, Massachusetts. Call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. 21 plus in present and select states. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino LLC. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG in Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Tennessee, or Virginia. 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342 in Arizona. 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana. 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com in Kansas. 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana. Visit www.mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming or visit www.1800gambler.net in West Virginia.
Meanwhile, another conversation about contracts was circling Lawrence Guy, and we theorized when he showed up to camp that there was no problem with his contract. The Patriots must have resolved it. Lawrence indicated today, well, that might not necessarily be the case.
Me and Mace has been in discussion with the organization, and we're just going to keep that private between us. I'm here. I have a big smile on my face. I'm going to do whatever I can for the organization and work as hard as I can. That's why we played this game. We played this game to be on this field, to be a brotherhood. Take Debbie down after this.
God bless him. Good guy. I'm not getting what I want, but I'm not going to be a dink and cost myself $50,000 a day. I'm coming into camp. So I'm not going to belabor too much the Lawrence Guy contractual situation. Just, I do think that it underscores pretty good soldier, good guy to have on your team.
And he may feel like he doesn't have a whole lot of leverage. Thomas is not like, you mentioned the potential Matt Judon hold in. Lawrence Guy doesn't have that kind of leverage as a star player who's going to post double-digit sacks for you. But I also thought it was interesting. I mean, he clearly values his role as a leader on this team. And so, I wonder if there's any part of him that says, all right, I got to get in here. I want to be part of this team. I want to help these guys out. I asked him a question about helping younger players out, and he went on for about 2 minutes about how important that is, how many snaps he's played in the NFL, and that if he weren't imparting some wisdom on guys like Christian Barmore or Keon White, the rookie, that would be a quote unquote robbery, is how he put it. He'd be doing himself a disservice. He'd be doing the team a disservice. So you're right. Good guy. The Patriots should be psyched that he's in, even though his contract isn't where he wants it to be.
One more topic to hit before we get to some quick hitters. JuJu Smith-Schuster was featured quite a bit on Thursday. Saw the ball a lot. Mostly productive. I like the way he moves so far. Jonathan Jones described him as physical, very physical. I am not going to lose my soft spot for Jacoby Myers, but I do see some of the benefits of having JuJu in terms of he's a slot, he's quick, he might not be fast, but he is physical. Here's what JuJu Smith-Schuster had to say about the slot receiver tradition here in New England.
The slot position has been a big tradition here with Troy to Edelman to all these great guys who's been in this position. And, it's an honor, to play that position. But being able to play inside, outside, moving around, but having that opportunity to say that, I'm on the inside is really nice. It's a compliment.
Phil, 45-second JuJu impression. Not
five, but 5 targets in competitive periods today that led the team. Had a nice, what I thought was the best play of the day for the offense, which was a touchdown to the back of the end zone with Marcus Jones in coverage. Nice play action look, some creativity from Bill O'Brien there, but high pointed it, good hands. He's the kind of guy who should help them in the red zone, Tom. All this red zone work the last couple of days. Big body, as you mentioned, physical, contested catches, some yards after catch. He does, after hearing Matt Groh describe what a number one receiver was to them, to the Patriots, he does fill some of those characteristics. Not all of them, in my opinion, but I wonder if they look at him and say, this guy could kind of be a number one. He's got good sight. He could play inside and out. He played outside last year for Kansas City and give us some yards after the catch. There's some number one-y stuff there from a Patriots vantage point. Again, not really for me.
He's a
but I
low
think for
one.
them.
He's a low one.
I think he's a mid 2. But
I
we'll see.
agree,
We'll
and I
find
think
out.
that Parker's a high 3.
Agreed.
And I think that Kendrick Bourne could be a low 2, moving up to a high 2 if you get him enough activity.
Agreed.
But who cares? Quick hitters. Christian Gonzalez. I go first. He is legit.
Why?
Just come down here and look. No, he's long. He's smooth. He's out there all the time. He looks like he is where he's supposed to be. There's nothing about his skill set that announces to me that he's not the best cornerback on the team. Now, there might be things and coverages that his head and brain would melt out his ears if he had to explain what's going on. But in terms of pure movement skills, it's just, he's going to be ridiculous.
It's going to be all mental with him. I agree with you. The physical skill set is I think off the charts. We haven't even really had a chance to see it because, again, everything's so condensed. It's not like he's had a lot of opportunities to make a play on the football down the field, for instance. There was one today for him, though, and he got beat. Devontae Parker just beat him down the field. Mac Jones floated it up to Parker. Parker actually made a really nice adjustment, kind of looking over one shoulder, then over the other, and made the catch. And Gonzalez sort of clapped his hands after as if to say, lost that one. But there's going to be those types of moments. They just need to get him out there as much as he's been, which is good, and have him see a lot of targets, which he saw today. I need to count him up in my notes here, Tom, but he must have been targeted 5 or 6 times by Mac Jones today, and that will benefit him in the long run, no doubt.
Josh Uche, I wrote my little daily briefing. I'm pretty funny. I said, every snap that he rushes should be accompanied by a meep, because he's so friggin' fast. It's like the Roadrunner. That might predate you.
Yeah, I was going to say, how many of our readers will get that reference? The Roadrunner.
Acme pass rusher. Meep. Okay, go ahead.
It's funny. I haven't found any Roadrunner clips on my YouTube feed lately. That's what our readers are probably saying. I agree with you. Josh Uche led my stock up category today in the stock watch post.
Had your stock up, did he?
Tom, no pads. We've said this about Josh Uche in non-padded practices before. My God, they can't block this guy. He's so fast. But they even tried to double him today at one point with Hunter Henry and Riley Reif, and he got through both for what would have been a sack. So he's been disruptive, and he talked today about how there have been conversations between his reps and the Patriots about an extension. He didn't want to get into details there, but he said he would like to be here. Business is business, so you never know. But he would like to be here. He feels the Patriots took a chance on him when most of the league didn't know what to do with him in 2020. But the Patriots took him in the second round. He had a great year last year, 11.5 sacks. Uchenna Nwosu just got a deal that's going to pay him almost $20 million a year from the Seahawks. He's never had more than 9.5 sacks. So Uche, if he has another big year sack-wise, he's looking at a big payday. They should try to get him done early, in my opinion.
They should. What'll be interesting about Uche is, and I'm sure that he would acknowledge this as well, he needs to be able to show a consistent output of sacks. Look, even if it's not sacks, if it's just beating people and causing chaos. But if you look at those sack numbers from last year, they were compiled really over a 4-week stretch, which isn't to say he sucked in the other 9 weeks, but be that as it may. Let's go rapid fire on these last few here. Duggar, picks on each of the first 2 days. Love him. Another guy who's got an expiring contract. You got to get guys like that signed. If you're not going to bring in talent, and they're too expensive and you don't want to piss off the locker room, you can't tell all the talent that's here that you're not going to pay them. I mean, what are we doing?
It might save them some money. Like, this is not just you're spending money to spend money and help your culture. I mean, those are all valid, help your culture, keep good players. It could save you money if you get these guys done early, as opposed to letting them go in free agency. And then all of a sudden you're looking for a pass rusher, or you're looking for a really versatile safety who can do everything. And then you have to pay those guys in free agency, and you end up paying them more than the guy that you could have extended after year 3. It's just, it could be a cost saving move for a team that we think is obsessed with saving costs. And they don't really do it all that often. Unless it's Jawan Bentley or Patrick Chung back in the day. He's the guy who got an extension every single year, it felt like. And he's a good player, but it's not usually with these guys that we think might get paid at or near the top of their positional markets.
It's wild. I wonder if they're still punch drunk from 2021, spending $172 million including a massive amount on 4 players and really only getting 2 were outright and total bust, Aguilar and Jonnu. Bourne's been I'd say a 4 out of 10 over the 2 years, despite being an 8 in his first year. And Matt Judon's been a 9.3. So that averages out to just pissing away $172 million worth of guaranteed money.
Can I ask you quickly on Duggar in particular? I asked Bill Belichick about Duggar and his versatility and how much value he brings, because Bill was on this rant about in today's game, how versatility helps you. And he went on had a nice comment for Duggar about how he can do everything and great player and great player. Guys, they get drafted in the first couple of rounds.
Roll it, Skull Crusher.
No, Kyle's a really good player. Yeah. He's big, run, tackle, can cover, blitz. Yeah, it's great. These guys are great. That's why they go into, high in the draft. Premium for them. And, they end up getting paid a lot of money. Like that's what they bring.
And Tom, there it is. And those are guys that are going to make a lot of money. When he says that, and he knows Duggar's in a contract year, does that make you feel better or worse about the fact that the Patriots are going to end up paying him and keeping him around?
Who was the guy you talked about making a lot of money last year?
Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. And I still don't know whether or not he went after the guy. All right, on to the next one. Riley Reif. You're really, really, really not high on Riley.
I mean, we just went on and on about Josh Uche being great. I think a lot of that is due in part to the fact that he's seeing a lot of Riley Reif, unfortunately, for the Patriots. We'll see when the pads come on, Tom. And one-on-ones, I think, are maybe the most telling periods of practice that we watch throughout training camp.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be big for him next week. I'm holding off on any grand proclamations on Riley. I'm just going to say I don't like his chances for holding on to that job for the entirety of the season.
Is Connor McDermott out there every day? He's my favorite player.
He is. He's consistently the second right tackle out there. He got beat actually by Lawrence Guy today for what would have been a sack.
Yeah, that's because he feels bad about Lawrence's contract and let him go through.
Trying to elevate his value.
We were going to talk about the kicking competition, but I'll be honest, folks, this is the second 12-hour day in a row, and I'm really hungry, and I got to get something to eat before we have Training Camp Central at 6:00, and then early edition at 6:30. We're going to do the same thing again on Friday because the Patriots have that same schedule. I'm going to go and get that. All right, frigate kicking competition. How's Ryland doing?
5 for 5 at the end of practice today. Nick Folk didn't miss a kick.
Done. We're done. That's it. Now you guys are up to date.
Make sure Nick Folk hit all his kicks on Wednesday, then Ryland hit all his on Thursday. So they're neck and neck.
Yeah, neck and neck. All right, guys. We're going to catch you later. Skull Crusher, thank you. And thank you, folks, for your patience. When the practice ends at noontime, we got to do some writing. We got to do some YouTube stuff. We got to do some show calls. I know I'm making excuses here, but I know this is getting out a little later than you would have wanted. Let us know maybe in the comments. Would you like quick 15-minute updates each day from camp? Or do you like the Tuesday, Thursday operation where we send you about 45 minutes worth of hoo-ha? We'll let you know what you knew after. Hey, Ragtime, shut up and let the people go.